Hello everybody, and hello audience. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much for coming. Today we're going to explore the battle between the mind and the imagination. And most people understand this as we are just a blob, and they think that the mind and the imagination are probably the same things. But what I'm going to illustrate to you today is how, as real human beings, here to do what we're supposed to do. Our imagination is the most fundamental part of us, and all our mind is used for is to focus it. So if we imagine a pen, the mind is the outside cover, but the ink and the information that goes into that writing is who you are in your imagination. So without the cover of the pen, you can't really write because it's wobbly and go everywhere. So we need the mind, the casing of the pen, in order to direct the ink and the information. But what people often think, though, they think the mind is all of the pen. They think the mind is the all-powerful thing. They think the mind is the main part of how we are. Now, I believe, and I've studied this for a very long time, that that's actually a false ideology. The fact that we are taught that the mind is the most important thing is a red herring, is a misdirection, and it takes us away from who we really are and for using our imagination to not only feel and understand each other, but also to create a better world. So today I'm going to illustrate this using various exhibits, including the EDM Power Tower. So, okay?
Yep.
So I shall begin then. Now, our imagination is incredibly powerful. What we can't do, by the way, we can't just manifest things from nothing. But what we can do, we can get bits and bobs that are here already, use our imagination, and then create something from them. Now then, this sculpture here, let me show you a bit closely. There we are. Can you see? What do you think this is made of? What do you think that's made of?
Parts from a machine.
Parts from a machine?
Yes.
All bits and bobs, isn't it? Look at those feet. Yeah, look at those feet. They're just bits and bobs. But if you notice, it stands and is balanced perfectly. Perfectly. Now, I know who made this, and I know that they did this just by using their eye and just by focusing on it and by really understanding what they wanted to create. So focus plus energy plus the information, the skill that you have creates something like this out of just bits and bobs that were lying anywhere. And this, often when people do things like this, the real energy that you put into that is love, because you really care and you really want to create something. And every single minute you spend with this gives it a feel of something that's bigger than the parts of it. So all the parts, if you took it all to pieces and put all the parts in a bag, what they would not have is what is created as a feeling when you look at this sculpture. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, indeed.
So us putting things together as a human being using love and care, focus and our imagination creates something bigger than us. And this is our human alchemy. And this is why we're special beings. So that's what I'm meaning by imagination, okay? However, I'll just put this over here for now. So let's get back to us then. So who are we and what are we? If we imagine that what we are can be represented as a stick, I'm not going to go too much into this because I have done many videos about this already, but basically this stick represents who you are. And as we can see, there's symbols on that stick that represent different elements of us. And to go very quickly through it, that's us being human, that's our talent, and what that means is actually what you do naturally without trying. That's what we prefer, who we prefer to be around, the environment we prefer to be in. LS is your learning style, how you learn. KN is your knowledge, your wisdom. And PHY is can you do it? Can you actually do all these things? So this stick represents that. And if we don't know who we are, we're just wobbling around. And again, lots of videos on that. But if we do know who we are, conscious of this, then we start to become much more firm and know who we are. And we can go into our stick. We can go into our stick, which again is subjects for another video. But let's just pretend for today that we know who we are. We are going from this place outwards and we are conscious of it so we can stand very firm and know what's what. We start to create a life which is good for us. It feels good. We have good health, people around us, and we give ourselves love and care. And we feel safe to be who we are. So we start to create these good feels from us. We also start to do things that are in line with our talent and in line with what we prefer to do. We start to create feelings of purpose, meaning, belonging, and identity. We understand what our learning style is. We make sure that that environment is around us when we're trying to communicate or understand something. Our knowledge, we know what our knowledge is, we own our knowledge, we own our experiences, we know what we've done things for, so we can express that. We can express what we know in a kind and humble way as we go about our day. Now, the last thing, can I do it, is very interesting, and this is where what we're going to talk about most of all today. Ability. Can we do it? Can we do it? That's where the mind lives. This is where the mind lives. This is how small the mind is compared to all the rest of who you are. Ability, it says. So our mindset has to allow us to do these things. So if we have a negative mindset, it's quite hard to do this. But it's not just that, it's also practical. Do I have enough money to go to the shop? Am I going to be together enough to catch the bus on time? But our mindset's very important. But as you can see, when it comes to a feeling and for a doing, it's the last thing. The reason why it is white is because it needs to be clear. This mind needs to be clear. So the information that you're getting from your stick self can come out in a clear way. If it's not clear and your mind is all fuddled up, the information that you have gets very confused and you start to think. It becomes basically perception rather than knowledge. When that happens, we can represent it like that. Anyhow, so if we experience life like this and we know what we're doing, look what happens. We have our imagination. We have our imagination, and that gives us an incredible power. Okay? Enough, for example, to create something that is bigger than you. So that's how powerful the imagination is. And once you start to practice this and you meet other people who are doing this, you get to a situation where you have lots of people together. And can you imagine what they can create? Can you imagine what they can create? Can you see how strong? Can you see how they're all showing who they are? They might be different colours. They all have commonality. They are all being who they are. And they are all connecting in a way that we can call authentic, because they are being who they are in a kind and humble way. And that really is what we need. We need people to be like that over there. But first of all, we need to understand the power of the imagination. Then we need to understand how to become this. And then we need to meet others. And then together we can start to create something really big. Any questions?
No, that's very interesting. Thank you.
However, and this is the thing, so that's the imagination. However, modern society, where we live, modern society has appeared to have created an environment, especially over the last 80 years, really strongly in the last 20, and unbelievably more intense in the last 2 years. And what that has done, the effect it has on that, on us, is that. What's happened? What's happened to that? What's happened to that? Where have our power needs gone? This box represents what we think gives us status, security, approval. This box represents modern society and the modern society construct. What's happened is modern society has created an imitation, a copy of what we actually need to be like that over there. What's in this box?
The power tower without a person?
The power tower without a person. Brilliant answer. That is a fantastic answer. I've actually looked at this in another video. What happens is, and I'm going to go off script here, what happens is, right, here's all the bits of our fields, this is what we have as a human being, but, as the member of the audience quite rightly said there is no thing inside there. The stick has gone, and the stick, you could say, was your soul. So by putting all of this into modern society and looking to create these fields from modern society is actually impossible, because in order to do that you lose your stick self, and your stick self is outside the box, blanked off, not aware, very weak, but the only thing it has is the mind. And because of this, we are taught that the mind is all powerful. And of course, in this example, it would be, because the mind is the only thing you have, because you've given everything else away to modern society. You've given it away. You've given away your sense of belonging. Before, over there, you could get your sense of belonging for being around people that you prefer to be around, for being in environments that you prefer to be around. But if we put it into the box, into the system, most people get that sense of belonging from work. Nothing wrong with that, but you're not in there, because you're acting out a role, R-O-L-E, you're acting out a role. So it doesn't touch your stick self. Okay, take another one. Health. Oh, this is a good one, very topical. If you give your health away to the system, what happens? You have to follow their rules. You have to do things that may not be healthy for who you are. You have to do things that may actually be just treating a symptom. Because the other thing that happens when you give yourself away in modern society, what happens is you lose all your own self-healing ability because you're not creating that kind of energy. So you become very weak. So you have to go to the people who are going to treat your symptoms because 9 times out of 10, you can't or won't treat yourself. Let's take another one. Purpose. Purpose. What are you doing things for? If you're in the zone where you're a full person, your purpose will be fundamentally to just be who you are. Fundamentally, it takes a while to get there. But then you can look at your talent, your preference. My purpose is to today feed my children. And given that's my purpose, I then have meaning. I then have meaning when I'm cooking tea. Because when I'm cooking tea, my purpose is to look after children, so cooking tea has a meaning. However, if we're not looking for purpose and meaning from our immediate lives, but instead we're looking for purpose and meaning outside in modern society, it's often to do well in your career. That's my purpose, to do well in my career, to earn lots of money, to have a nice house and to be abundant. All outside. So the only things that have meaning are things that buy into that idea. So the fact that I'm cooking my children tea actually becomes irrelevant because you don't feel it. You are just thinking about it as a task through the mind. So let me go a little bit deeper. Any questions?
No, I was just a statement really thinking that the belonging related to your job.
Yes.
Also, belonging these days is very much related to social media as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's this is, again, people look for belonging now in the box. That's what they look for. And hey presto, we suddenly have an internet. So people, I mean, myself included, if I don't watch it, because it's very addictive, right? Is you then go, you might be doing whatever you do all day, but you might be thinking, oh, I'm going to take a picture of this to put on social media. I'm looking for a reaction. And then when I do and I get what I call a tick and an approval, I get a buzz from my mind. This is why the mind is so powerful. So let's get back on track. So you'll notice that the imagination doesn't exist here because all the fields that you need with the imagination in it has gone away. So the system has captured your imagination, okay? Not as a whole, but in bits. So it's fragmented you into bits. And because you've been fragmented, you cannot use your imagination in the way that we're supposed to be using it. And interestingly, Disney's thing that they put their tagline is captures your imagination, which I noticed and I thought was really interesting because that's what you're doing. You're allowing your imagination to be captured and given the power tower and the idea behind the power tower. Once you give away your imagination, what we both know now is that there's no thing in it. We are not in that. So we have lost our soul because we are not in that. So if we give it all away to here, we have no thing, we are nothing. All we have is our mind. Now, what's happened over time, again, I would say definitely over the last 40 years, horrendously over the last 2 years, what's happened to this is this has become very large, and I must make a sculpture showing that, because we're focusing on it, and we're getting everything we need now from the mind. We're getting all our feels that we would produce before from the mind, because we're having to go out and engage in modern society to get that. Okay, so the mind becomes very powerful. So in this instance, the mind is very powerful, but in this instance, the imagination is very powerful. Okay? So this is your choice. You can become this, or you can become that. This is the choice we have to make. This is being human, being authentic. This is basically someone with no feels. And because they have no feels, they become very robotic. They experience everything from the mind. Everything has to fit into the mind. This is where they get their energy from. And because of that, the mind becomes powerful. The mind is what rules you. So the answer to the question, what's more powerful, mind versus imagination, what wins? Well, fundamentally, which one looks stronger, would you say?
The imagination looks stronger.
This is stronger. But if we're in this, what I call energy dynamic, if we're in this construct, the mind will always win. So it's up to us to make the imagination more powerful, because that is what has become, ironically, it has become hidden. Our natural ability to be powerful has become hidden because we're not taught this. We are taught to be like this, and then we're told that the mind is powerful. And guess what? Yes, it is. So, thank you very much for listening to this little show, maybe even this little demonstration of mind versus imagination, which wins. And I would encourage all of us, if you want to get through life and remaining as a real human being, to want to become this. The good news is you can become this. From this state, you can become this. No problem. You can become this. You have a choice. And what the EDM Academy does is it teaches people how to understand this and how to go from there to there, so they become much more contented human beings. So for more information, please contact me. My website is www.energydynamicmodel.com. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.